All right, my friends, I'm going to encourage you to stop living so scared if you are. It's very easy to be negative, to listen to the naysayers, to think if you're a left winger that there's a Nazi under every bed, a Klansman is ready to slice your throat, and if you're on the right wing that there's a Muslim terrorist under every bed about ready to slice your throat as well. I get all that. Look, it's easy to succumb to fear. I'm telling you, it is. I'm just going to tell you don't, because it makes no sense. I'm going to share with you some data, which I still find absolutely stunning on the real world likelihood of certain events happening to you and why you just need to poo-poo when you hear these nervous Nellies and naysayers. What did Spiro Agnew says? Something nabobs of negativism. I forgot what he said, but anyway, it's pretty funny. You just got to avoid that because it's not a good way to live your life. It's not. So let's dive into this. This is from Our World and Data. And I came across this about 2 years ago or so, which I thought was just incredible visualization of the likelihood of you being killed and where the actual deaths come from. So we're going to show you this causes of death, and I don't know who Our World and Data is. We'll dive into this a little bit deeper, but I'm pretty comfortable that the numbers are legit because it's easy to get. You can literally just go to WHO, World Health Organization, whatnot. Are these numbers skewed? Yes, we know for a fact. We know for a fact that the political beings out there underemphasize some things that they want to underemphasize and overestimate other things that they want to overestimate. For the political narrative. We know this for a fact. And so you just, even if it's half is what we're seeing here, the visualization is still be mind-boggling. All right. So let's bring this up a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe. All right. As global, does that make it bigger? Maybe not. As global population increases, life expectancy rises, and living standards improve. Oh no! Population increase. Oh, we're all gonna die. Listen to what's his name from the Paul Elric and his wife from the 70s. The population implosion. Causes of death around the world are changing. In this entry, we present a global overview of the causes of death. The data visualizations and explainers in the early part of this entry attempt to provide a comparison between causes and risk factors of death across countries and age group. The sections then will explore the empirical data. And remember, empirical means you're being able to witness it. You observed it. The specific causes more detail. All right, so let's take a look. And the causes of death in the recent decades. In the chart below, we provide a comparison of the number of people who died as a result of a specific cause in 2016. The data is given as a total across all ages and both sexes. Causes of death varies notably between age groups, data across individual groups, and the sections which fall. On a global level, we see the majority of deaths are attributed to non-communicable diseases, NCDs. These are chronic long-term illnesses such as cardiovascular diseases, including stroke, respiratory disease, cancer, and diabetes. Collectively, NCDs account for more than 70% of global deaths worldwide. So just remember that non-communicable diseases represent 70% of deaths worldwide. Again, cardiovascular, stroke, respiratory, cancer, and diabetes. And look at this. These charts, I always have a hard time following just because they don't make a whole lot of sense to me. So we're going to go down here, and we'll start with the world, and I changed it to U.S. Can I make this bigger or what, man? I thought I was doing that. Let's see. Maybe not. Okay. Anyway, weird. There we go. Let's make it. There we go. Boink. Yeah, I still got these sniffles, man. My throat still hurts. Driving me crazy. All right, here we go. All right, so causes of death in the world: cardiovascular, 32%. So a third of all deaths in the world were from cardiovascular. Cancers were an eighth. Respiratory and diabetes were roughly an eighth between them. Dementia was 1/20th. Lower respiratory infections, neonatal, as in the basically babies. Diarrheal, basically you're going to have dehydration and whatnot. Road incidents were 2.45. So road incidents were way low in the totem pole of all said and done. Look at this. Other than until we hit suicide, the only thing that was not a natural death was road incidents, and that's a small 2.45. Then suicide is 1.5. Homicide is 0.71. All right, that's in the U.S. Now you see down here terrorism, and look, I challenge that. I mean, look, we can double the rise of terror. We can do whatever we want. You can triple it. Say these guys are, maybe from the UN and they underreport terrorism because it serves a political narrative for migration. I get all that, but even if we tripled it, which seems a little bit extreme, we're still talking about 0.18%. I mean, that's like a Vanguard mutual fund expense ratio. That's just nothing. I mean, my goodness, drug disorders, and I presume that's overdoses. I don't know. But let's go to the U.S. All right, so here's the U.S. in 2016. 900,000 people in the U.S. died from, let's see, Institute of Health and Metrics Evaluation, Global Terrorism Database, Amnesty International. So that's part of the source. Amnesty International, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But again, I'll even increase it by a third, by 300% for terrorism. Anyway, we had 68 terrorist deaths in 2016, of which we had 901,000 deaths by cardiovasculars. Let's just say a million. 700,000 by cancers. Dementia is 230, let's say 250,000. I mean, that's a lot of people dying. Not very many from terrorism or murder. Do they got murder in here? Conflict. I don't see murder. Drug disorder. I got to assume drug disorder is overdose and or doctor's prescriptions with a doctor homicide right there, 18,000. All right, so if I can be very clear, the risk if you are white in the suburban U.S. of dying of homicide is just slim to none. The risk of you white in the suburban America being killed by terrorism is slim to none. So just for my white friends out there, you're not likely to be killed by criminals. You're just not. The risk of any kind of property damage is slim to none. Yes, some of you will have your car broken into if you live in Center City. I get that. The risk of crime happening to you if you are white and you're in a suburban area is just not enough to concern yourself with. So if you are of my persuasion with this melatonin or whatever it's called, whatever the pigmentation, whatever it is, you're not likely to be affected by crime. You're just not in terms of someone causing crime on you. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means it's not very likely to happen. Thus, don't worry about it. Now, if you're black, a young man in black in Chicago, Southside Chicago, that's a different story. It's perspective. If you're white in the suburbs, it's not likely to happen. If you're a young black man and you're in the Southside Chicago or Anacostia, D.C., I don't even know if Anacostia is anymore the poor part of D.C., that's different. And that person has a different perspective than you if you're white and like me. And that person does have a whole different consideration without question. Without question. We cannot beat around the bush there. But just a vast majority of us, and this is all races, if you're out in the suburbs, you're not likely to be affected by crime. It's just not likely to happen. So if you're living in crime, always looking over your shoulder, someone's out to get me, man, just don't. It's just not likely to happen. Now, this doesn't talk about crime. It talks specifically about murders and terrorism even, but it's just not enough for you to sit there and say, I better be armed to the teeth everywhere I go. And look, I'm all about concealed carry. I'm all about open carry. Do whatever you want. I think an armed society is a polite society for sure, without question. But don't do it solely because you're worried that someone's breathing down your neck and put a bullet in your head. Do it because you know there are people out there doing bad things, and the good people who are armed will be able to help the good people who are unarmed and being abused. We know that for a fact. So I'm all about that, without question. But don't do it because you think that the Farrakhan's of the world are breathing down your neck. It's just not likely to happen. All right. And the same goes for any suburban. If you're in the suburbs, regardless of your race, you're just not likely to be a victim of crime. It's just not likely. You're not likely to be a victim of terrorism. It's just not likely to happen. All right. So now, are you likely for cardiovascular, cancer, dementia, diabetes? Now, this is the big one right here. And this is where I want to introduce you to my man, Gary Taubes' book, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It. And this is one of the most life-changing books of my life. I'm just telling you, get this. I'll put a link in the show notes. I cannot explain how just important this is of a book, especially when you're seeing this data right here. All these various diseases that are killing people just not even close to terrorism or murder. All right, so get this. This book is nuts. The more carbs you intake, because the Ansel Keys fake 7-country study, which is still propagated throughout the U.S., i.e. don't eat eggs because cholesterol, don't drink whole milk because of the carbs or the sugar, not the sugar, the fat content. It's just all that is just bad. And yet still propagate. Now it's starting to get less and less, which is fantastic. But one of the reasons because Gary Tobbs took it on the chin to start the process. Him and another lady here, Nina something. Who is that? Right here. Nina Teichholz, The Big Fat Surprise, which I haven't read yet, but I'll put a link in the show notes. They actually took it to research. Say, what's going on? Why are we getting fat? Why are so many people dying from these things? And what was happening here? And just wonderful, wonderful research done to save lives. No other way around that. Saved my life, I'll tell you right now. My triglycerides are through the roof when I was eating my previous diet before I read Why We Get Fat. And I'm just telling you right now, man, watch the carbs, eat fat, drink milk if you want. Milk has sugar in there, so be careful. But whole milk, eggs, bacon, you'll be in a good place for sure. All right. Anyway, so that's what I want to talk about. Cancers, dementias, disease. We do see drug disorder, and we see suicides, and that's bad. Suicides are bad because I think depression, which is why I want to say stop living in fear. If you're living in fear, it's more likely to be to a depression, which is more likely to lead to this right here for sure. Drug disorders go hand in hand with that. If you're living in fear, you're more likely to lead to depression. You want to alleviate the depression, so you take drugs, and next thing you know, you're shooting up smack that your body can't hold, and it kills you. It happens all the time. Don't do that. Drug disorders and suicide happen so much more than homicides, and certainly more than terrorism. It's not even close to that. Now, with the folks on the left who say, "Oh, my, get right out there with an AR-15, they're going to shoot up the neighborhood." Again, homicides, 18,000. Most of those people are gang wars. That's just all there is to it. Not all of them. I get that. There are people get killed. I know for a fact there are. But the vast majority are not just innocent people going to get their groceries on a Sunday afternoon after church. They're just not. The vast majority of them are gangbangers who are shooting each other up. That's not good. I'm telling you, which is why I don't like drug prohibition, because I think it encourages that. Look at Al Capone. But that's what's happening here, and I don't like that at all. But, the facts are you, my left-wing friends, are not likely to be a victim of a homicide either because of a life member of the NRA with his AR-15 decides to go crazy at your place of worship or whatever it is. It's just not likely to happen. So stop. If you're living in fear, I read this article not that long ago, a guy in the New York Times, he had to get service done on his AC unit. And there's a Southern guy in a Southern drawl, a white guy, and this guy was like in Pittsburgh or something like that. He was frightfully scared because he thought literally that this guy was a Klansman. And I said, man, you are, and the A that he wrote about just shows you the bubble he lives in. But I said, you're in a bad place, man. If you hear some guy with a Southern drawl, and I don't even know what Southern to him was. He probably thinks I'm Southern because I have my accent has changed over the years. But I'm from Maine, and so the idea that this guy's AC guy was, or plumber, maybe what it was gonna. He was worried about him being a Klansman, was gonna kill him because he had he's white guy with a Southern drawl. Shameful. So don't be that. That's just nuts. Life's too short, man. But anyway, and this you can change the data. You can change the country. Share of deaths caused worldwide. We talk about that. Just all kinds of stuff in here. Causes of death, population growth. It's just so much wonderful. Cause of death by age group. 70 years old. You're more likely to die once you hit 70. That's a fact. Lots of different stuff. And here we go. Cause of death if you're under the age of 58. Neonatal disorders. Well, again, that'd be babies. Lower respiratory infections, malaria, diarrheal disease, and even under the age of 58, where you're more likely to be part of a younger element who's doing bad things. Even here, whereas homicide here is way down here at 9,000. So even then, that's in the worldwide. Cause of death under 5 years old. Excuse me, that was under 5. Oh, under 5s. Never mind. Under 5 years old. Okay, scratch that. Let's see. Cause of death 5 to 14. Homicide is bigger. 5 to 14. You got some more younger teenage kids, men in particular, engaging in bad behavior. But even that is way down here. It doesn't come close to malaria. Road accidents. Well, that doesn't shock me. But the reason why road accidents is such a high prevalence is because not that many people die between 5 and 14 in the world. It's just not that many. Let's change country. We'll do U.S., United States, and see what that looks like here. In this case, in the U.S., cancers, road accidents, 1,000. So not that many people die between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And ones that do, uh, almost even Steven are road accidents, and that actually makes sense because a lot of these young men in particular don't know how to drive. Homicides is a big one right there for you. Again, young black men in particular. That's a bugaboo, and I mean we got to police that crap up. Suicide is big, so you see suicides, homicides, and road accidents. So for young people in the U.S. under the age of 14 to 5, natural deaths, cancer, diabetes. I hate to even say natural, but you know what I'm talking about. It's not caused by a human action. You got suicide, homicide, and road accidents. 3 of the top 5 are caused by human action, which is pretty sad, actually. I find that horrifically sad. And I bet if you change this and took out black males, it'd be a whole lot less for homicides, which I just find horrible. I really do. It boggles my mind that no one seems to care, unless it's a white cop for some reason. But if it's black on black violence, just no one seems to care. And I find that very disheartening for sure. That's why I like Jim Brown. Jim Brown was not a conservative by any stretch of imagination, but he says, look, we have an epidemic of tragic proportions with young black men here. And it has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with Obama. But we got to police this crap up. And, look, and yet Jim Brown is being looked at as if he's a sellout, which is nuts. Cause of death, ages 15 to 49. I bet if you're able to do this ages 15 to 25 for the U.S., you'd find homicides is a big one. And again, but that's one segment of the population. It's not suburbans. It's inner city black kids. It's black young men. Sad. It really is. And I don't have the answers. It's not gun control. I'll tell you that right now, but that breaks your heart. But anyway, don't live in fear, my friends. Life is too short to be living in fear. You're not likely to die other than if you start eating a bunch of crap of high carb, low fat food, you're going to be dying. There's no other way around that. You're going to get big. You're going to have cardiovascular. You're going to have respiratory issues. You're going to have diabetes. Don't do that. So read the books. I just put them down. Nina Teicholz and Gary Taubes, and find a way to avoid that crap. It'll extend your life for sure. Anyway, I'll put the link in the show notes as always. Comments, questions, concerns, put them in the show notes. Give me a thumbs up. Share the video if you will. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks now.